Hello. I want to talk about something that we don't often discuss in our ramblings about human nature. I want to focus on the man and the beast inside. This beast inside, which can be viewed in many ways, our instincts, our wants, our feelings. That thing with no voice that borrows our arms and legs and often our mouths to govern most of our everyday things. And men, they're scared of that beast, and who's to blame them? That beast, that untrained and uncultured emotion, has often landed many of us in trouble. The everyday struggle of every man is to control that beast, to calm it down, and try with his conscious mind to make decisions. And men, they feel ashamed of that side of them. Many of them result in joining feministic sides, misandric ideologies, hating every living moment in their lives because of that beast that lies within. And what the beast is their manhood. Right now, there will be so many men that hate the fact that they were born like that. They hate the fact that their features are coarse, that their body does not smell as nice, that their voice is too deep, and they carry with them that guilt wherever they go. That guilt that the media keeps assigning to them, that they are responsible about every single bad thing that has gone wrong in this world, that their beast, the one that they had no choice in being born with, is the cause of all evils on this earth. And what is a man to do? He hides. He hides his beast. He keeps it quiet in a dungeon of his mind, never acknowledging for 1 second that that beast exists. And women in general, they fear that beast. What is not to fear? Uncontrolled anger coming from a man can land anyone in a worse stage than they were before. But the beast very rarely hits the women. It often hits other men. It often hits itself. That man directly who forgets to acknowledge its presence, forgets to give it time, live with it, and be his companion throughout his life. You see, you cannot expect locking away your masculinity, putting it in a jail, and not to expect that beast to fight back. And society cannot expect that the beast can only be used only when it serves her. I have sat down with many girls before, and I told them word for word that the man and the animal are one and the same. And I never knew back then what I was talking about. You see, I often said it as an apology almost, full of shame for letting that beast run wild. But you can only tame the beast once you acknowledge it, once you feed it, once you become friends with it. And we cannot allow ourselves to live in a world where the basis of our very nature is ridiculed and hated. You don't have to toe the line. The outside world can speak whatever it wants to. You're you, and you have your own problems. You're dealing with your own pain, and within you, you have your own special beast. I worry when something like this is not talked nearly as enough as it should be. When we constantly talk about controlling our emotions, subjugating them, being the master of ourselves, yet we don't really understand how. I often get advised from men in this community about meditation, about Zen philosophy and the like. And it works for those men. And I cannot judge those men. If it works, it works. But you see, for me, my thoughts were always a bit fleeting. My predisposition was always a bit harsh. And those things never worked for me. I did not have the discipline to sit down and do those exercises for as long as I had to. And I had to invent my own ways of doing things. And visualizing and listening to myself in my own voice, playing out my life, my worries, was the only way that I could ever do it. And I resented this idea of controlling a part of me. And though control is vital, and my beast was quite an angry one. I eventually saw him in the eyes for what it really was, a part of me, and I have never looked back since. When you look into the mirror, what do you see? Is it fear, contempt, sadness, anger? There are no right answers here, and we all swing back and forth through each phase in our lives. Nothing is constant after all. But do you actually ever see yourself looking back? Or are you looking at a man working through his worries, his fears, his anxieties and his problems? Are you simply looking at a shell of a man? Do you see a man in a spiral? Are you seeing the glimpses of you there still? There is no real you other than the you that accepts all of you. That was the most difficult of lessons to accept. That was the most difficult lesson to find in myself. That the beast that I was so scared of in my youth, as I eventually let it out and it came out and I picked him up. It had the face of a little scared boy, and granted that boy was vicious, but all he needed was my care and affection. And that boy and I eventually became friends, and I learned not to fear it. I learned to accept it. That boy gave me so many problems, but he was there and suffered through it all with me. He was my companion, and I kept him quiet. And that boy never learned to speak, and no matter how much I try, he will never speak. And he will occasionally lash out. He will occasionally throw tantrums. But that boy is a part of me. You see, my brothers, we should not be ashamed for what has made us. We should not be ashamed about any single part of us. It seems to be that the most difficult lesson that all of us will have to learn is that whether in prisons or in chains, wherever you hide your beast, we should all go and find him, sit with him, study him and acknowledge him, and try to understand him. It is only but a very simple creature, but he is the most important friend you will ever make. He is you, beneath the mask, the speech, the confident and presumptuous language that you might use. He knows you better than you know him. And he will never forget you. No matter how much you ignore it, he will be there and he will ache to come out. And the sooner that you learn that you were built to be with both yourself and that beast, that boy as it is in my case, the sooner you will lose your shame, the sooner you will lose your guilt, and even sooner you will start to like yourself again. And I mean truly like yourself. And then love yourself, with the scars, the pain, warts and all. But to love yourself, you must understand yourself, and there can be no understanding without that introspection, without you spending the time to acknowledge that part of you. That mirror waits for your face every day to show up, and many of us live in the quiet desperation of looking at that face and acknowledging the weakness in the eyes, the fear and the anger. But look inside of you. Take the time and familiarize yourself with that beast. Acknowledge that you have a dick and do not be ashamed of it. Look into your soul to find the masculinity that you're so scared of and reunite. And you will see. It will be like two old friends that haven't seen each other in years. The experience will be overwhelming, but you will simply continue from where you left off. And there will be no more fear in your eyes, nor anger, contempt, guilt, or shame. You will look into that fucking mirror and you will see you. You as you were born to be.